Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Creative Herd Studios Fun Facts Artist Series. Today, we're going to be talking about someone a little special, a little near and dear to my heart, Bob Ross. Okay, so who is this Bob Ross character, right? A lot of you guys probably know who Bob Ross is. If you know me, I am totally obsessed with Bob Ross. I love Bob Ross. I have a Bob Ross belt that I wear almost every day. What you may not know about Bob Ross is that before he became a painter, he was actually a U.S. Air Force sergeant. He was in the Air Force for 20 years before he started doing his art show. We all know Bob by his cool, soothing voice. One of the things that we love dearly about him. When they did research on it, only about 3% of the population that was watching his show was actually painting along with him. The rest of us just kind of enjoyed watching it therapeutically. You know, it was something to kind of keep you calm and mellow and chill, and we just loved to watch Bob Ross paint. In a 1990 interview with Orlando Sentinel, he said, "I was the guy who makes you scrub the latrine, the guy who makes you make your bed, the guy who screams at you for being late to work." He said that he earned the nickname Bust 'em Up Bobby, and he hated it. He hated being angry all the time and aggressive all the time. And that was a big reason why, when he stepped out of that job, he said, "No more. I am not going to be loud. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to be aggressive." And he fully took on that persona. And they say that who you see on the show is who he was in real life, too. Just very calm, very mellow. We're going to paint some happy little clouds and some happy little trees, and we're not going to make mistakes. We're just going to have happy little accidents. When he was stationed in Alaska with the military, he started taking painting classes in Anchorage. One of the people that he started to follow was a German painter named Bill Alexander, who had a show called The Magic of Oil Painting. Bill Alexander used a wet-on-wet technique that we all are familiar with when we watch Bob Ross videos. And these techniques have been used even by the Impressionist and the Post-Impressionist. And Bob Ross took on that technique. And with this technique, he was able to eventually finish a painting within 30 minutes. Bob Ross spent time as a traveling salesman for Alexander Magic Art Supplies Company. And he also started teaching some lessons. And during one of these lessons that he was teaching, he met a woman named Annette Kowalski. And she said that her first time going to his painting class, she was like, "Oh my God, who is this guy? He's a nobody." Nobody knew who Bob Ross was. He was just some guy that painted. She started watching him do his stuff, and she was entranced. She said, "I was more interested in watching Bob Ross than I was doing the painting." And she realized that there was something in that. And she and her husband, Walt, went in with him and said, "Hey, let's do something. Let's start this company together." And they talked him into starting Bob Ross Incorporated. So we all know Bob Ross by his afro. He's the dude with the afro that paints. And the reason he did that was because perming his hair was cheaper than going in and having to maintain his haircuts. They took that image and they created a logo, and it was pretty much Bob Ross's head. We still use that logo today for his products that he sells or any of the things that you buy. I can get a pair of socks with Bob Ross on it. I can get shirts with Bob Ross on it. There's all kinds of things that you can buy that are associated with Bob Ross, but it's almost always the same iconic smile and the afro. Even though he hated that hairstyle, he realized that that was part of what people recognized about him, and that was part of the company logo. So there's actually a lot of controversy about Bob Ross. There's a lot of people that are in the fine art world that are like, "Oh my God, no, Bob Ross is awful. He is not an artist. That is not real art. All he's doing is using techniques to create a craft." Okay? But there was an interview with Bob Ross on the Phil Donahue show back in 1994 where he actually says, "I'm trying to teach a form of art that anybody can do. It's not traditional art. It's not fine art. And I don't try to tell anybody it is." So he knew that what he was doing was not fine art. He knew that it wasn't something that he needed all this recognition for. He really wasn't about the recognition. In fact, a lot of people think that, he probably made a ton of money from selling his paintings and everything. And he did not want to sell his paintings. He did not actually sell any of his paintings. He would donate paintings sometimes for charity. He started the show The Joy of Painting back in 1983, and it went all the way through 1994. And every episode that he did at least 3 paintings, and a lot of people don't know that. So the 3 paintings that he would do for every episode, one was the before painting that he would use as a reference during the show. One was a painting that he would make during the show, and one was a painting that he would make after the show that he would use in his instructional books. He only made income off the products that he sold. So you could buy Bob Ross paints, you could buy Bob Ross brushes, you could buy Bob Ross palettes, you could buy Bob Ross canvases, and that's where he made his money in. That's the marketing that he did. So he didn't take money for the show. So this company that Annette talked him into starting is called Bob Ross Inc., Bob Ross Incorporated. And that company still exists today. In fact, you can contact that company by dialing the number 1-800-BOB-ROSS. One cool thing is that Annette Kowalski, because she worked with him so much, in fact, he lived with her and her husband for a little while, and she knows what an authentic Bob Ross painting looks like. There's a lot of people that think that they bought original Bob Ross paintings, and they spent a lot of money on these paintings. And when they take them to Annette to get checked out, because she's pretty much the only person that can tell a real from a fake, they've actually had to go back to these people who spent a lot of money and say, you know what? This actually isn't a real Bob Ross, and here's why. She could go through and figure out, she knew his brush strokes, she knew his signature, she knew all of that stuff, and that's kind of cool too. They say that he would be tickled pink to find out that all these people are so obsessed with him and that they have all these icons and things about him. But his main goal was just to preach happiness, to make people happy, to, if you want to learn some art techniques, great. Let me show you some art techniques. But most importantly, let's have a good time with this. Let's enjoy this. Let's be calm and peaceful. And he even threw in some lessons of life. There's a lot of quotes that you've heard from him that really preach that idea of it's going to be okay. Life is going to be okay. And right now during these pandemic times, it's kind of a really important message that we need to look at, is that no matter how hard everything gets right now, it's going to be okay. Mistakes happen. We're just going to push those mistakes aside. And they're going to be happy little accidents now, because we're going to make what we can out of what we have. And that's a message that we all need right now. So he was asked about why his stuff won't end up in museums at one point. And it's kind of funny because he actually responded to that statement. He said, well, maybe it will, but probably not the Smithsonian. What's interesting about that comment about the Smithsonian is he really is going to have artwork now in the Smithsonian. They have recently purchased a handful of his artworks that they're going to keep in a permanent collection. Hopefully these will be displayed at some point. But he never thought that he should get that kind of recognition. He never thought that he should be out there. At one time, he had made some kind of comment about, wouldn't it be cool? Because then I can help teach the concept and love for art through the Smithsonian. We can spread that love out even further because there's so many people that go to the Smithsonian. If you've ever spent any time watching Bob Ross's show, then you may have come across some of his animals. Bob Ross has a deep love of animals. And when he was a young child in Florida, he rehabilitated a lot of different animals. And these animals included things like squirrels, armadillos, snakes, and even the occasional alligator. This love for animals continued on. He has some squirrels, raccoons, animals like that he'll bring up on the show every once in a while. He had a squirrel named Bobette, which was a combination of his name, Bob, with his good friend Annette's name. He had a squirrel named Peapod, and later on he had a squirrel named Peapod Jr. Everybody loved seeing his animals because they were really cute. His squirrels would kind of play around in his afro and hang around. It was really cool. When Bob Ross was a child, he had an accident with woodworking, and he ended up losing a part of his left index finger. A lot of people don't realize this because he was right-handed, so he would have the paintbrush in his right hand, and then he would be holding the palette in his left hand, and you just wouldn't even notice that he had a part of his finger missing. So when Bob Ross died in 1995, he actually died July 4th, 1995. His company, Bob Ross Inc., went solely to the Kowalskis, who were the ones that helped him get started in the first place. But it's kind of an interesting question because they did have a son. Bob Ross has a son named Steve Ross. I feel like when we end this, we need to end it with another one of Bob's quotes. And there's so many quotes out there that I love that are great messages. But I think we're going to end with this. Anything that you want, you can build here. This is your world. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode over Bob Ross, and I will see you next time.